to come in at 8 o'clock or before that time or after 4 o'clock or whatever, we make sure that they come in and they see, the caseworker. So the reason we're closed during some of those times is to do the verification, which takes time, for them to, go through and make all the different calls and so forth so they can make a determination.
You want to make a 30-second response and then we switch questions?
The only thing that I'm concerned, if 628 people come in a month, that's 7,500, over 7,500 people in a year. And what you're saying to me, or what I'm hearing you say, is that you're having misrepresentation, you lie, you lose, and there's only $226,000 worth of assistance being provided. So your workers are working 40 hours a week. It just doesn't make sense to me that this are now, because 7,500 people,
we refer it. Now, we see 620, but we're not dealing with all of those people. We're referring probably about 172, 175 of those people to other agencies when they come in, or it's not an emergency, but they are coming to our office.
That's still
that's
500.
Not counting the phone calls, the emails you got to respond to, the correspondence and so forth.
Well, what you're saying to me, would you excuse me, Glenn? But what you're saying to me, Paul, and I'm just going to respectfully disagree with you, is what you're saying to me is there's a great demand for services, but it doesn't sound like what you're saying is only $226,000 of assistance is being provided, and you're returning $1.6 million worth of assistance.
For services. There's a lot of people coming in and applying for services, but some of them aren't eligible and they don't qualify. So, we're dealing with those that come in. We do help them. And so what would you rather do? Would you rather say, well, we'll give them 1.5 million like they did in the previous administration that you were part of for 10 years? The old giveaway, come on in and, we're going to help you out irregardless?
Would you say, Paul, that 75% of those that apply would you say that 75% or 50% that apply don't qualify? There's got to be a large number out there.
Yeah.
I would say, that's right. Well, what I'm saying is, out of those that come in, whoever qualifies gets assistance, and we're probably helping maybe one out of three.
Okay, I want to switch now to refugees. It is the assumption of a lot of people in this city that our welfare money goes to refugees, and I know that that's not true, and I would like you guys to expel that. I do know that last year you gave out roughly $2,500 of your budget to immigrants and refugees. And there was a difference between an immigrant and a refugee, is there not, Paul?
Well, they're two different things, okay? But the refugees are the ones that came over here, basically, because they were being, in their countries or whatever. Yeah. And so, last year I gave roughly around $2,500. This year is going to increase because the state now has stopped various programs that were helping the refugees. So I'm already seeing that now because we've spent almost $3,000 on interpreters, which we haven't done in the past. And I'm probably up to about $7,500 so far, these 4 months helping refugees. It's because the state, as the trickle-down process, they stopped, various programs to help them.
Now, between $2,500 for both of you, between $2,500 in the past year and maybe $7,500 so far this year, that's a far cry from $227,000. So we could safely say that refugees are not taking the welfare money of the local welfare office. Am I correct?
That's right. That's correct. Yeah.
I want to put that to bed.
Thank you. That's very true, and it is a misunderstood item.
Now, we didn't do coins, so I'll ask Diane first, I guess. If there's one question you could ask Paul, what would it be?
Well, I think that I still have the concern that in this tough economic times, why there is such a strong reduction in assistance by 42%. I don't understand that. And misrepresentation and common sense practices. I'm not sure that I understand what's going on in that office, and perhaps you could clarify it. It seems to me that that if the employees are there, if they're working 35 hours, if they're working 40 hours a week, and they're seeing, I don't know how many they're seeing, and that would be something that needs to be looked at. How many people are they seeing? How much assistance is being given out? And how does that work? How many hours are they actually working towards finding people ineligible for assistance?
They're going through the process. You're familiar with this. They interview the person, then they do the verification. If somebody needs assistance, like I said before, you know, I don't have a cap or a limit and tell somebody, guess what, this year we're only going to spend $250,000. Whatever it is, the money's going to be there, all right? And if I need more money, I go to the Board of Mayor and Alderman and just say, listen, you know, I need more money either for rent or for medication or for food or whatever. And, you know, it'll be there. So we're not trying to deny anybody. Anybody that comes in who's needy and qualifies and is eligible, we assist. And so if it ends up being $293,000, $300,000, $500,000, that's what it's going to be.
All right.
So I don't have a cap, but, you know.
All right, Paul, if you had a question to ask Diane, what would it be?
Well, you know, I mean, she's got all these concerns. I'm just wondering, what is she going to do any different than what we were doing before?
That's a fair question, Diane.
Well, I think that we have to need to take a look at what's going on here. I think the economy is such that I think that one of the things that I will do is open up communications with all of the nonprofits. That's going to be the very first thing. The nonprofit agencies that are out there are working to end homelessness. That's a standard mandatory, and they've been looking for the commissioner to come to the table and work with them. And it's also part of what it's important for the welfare office also to know what's going on within the community, and also for the caseworkers to know what is out there as far as there are changes going on all the time, and we need to work side by side. We need to participate with the association. As when I talked to Bob Max, he felt that the commissioner played a big role in the state, and because it is the only elected office in the state of New Hampshire, and that would be a big weight when we work in Concord. So there are those kinds of things. And I don't know what I could do. I can work with nonprofits. I can find out what's going on. I can maybe drive. If I find out that there's a specific need, maybe I can make calls to the nonprofits, even churches, and find out, well, I'm finding this particular need. What can you do to help us to make sure that we reach this particular family?
Well,
so those are kinds of things.
I have been working with the nonprofits. As a matter of fact, you know that I initiate a staff meeting on Wednesdays. I've had people from the nonprofits come into our staff meeting. I've taken my caseworkers to New Horizons. We've visited New Horizons. You know, I've had the public service company credit people come in and talk to us. I've had New Hampshire legal assistants come in and talk to us. I've had various nonprofits come in and talk to my caseworkers to let them know what was out there and what, you know, they could do as far as helping us. Now, when Mayor Baines was there, I was on his task force, refugee task force committee. Mayor Ginta had me on the 10-year End Homelessness Committee, which works with nonprofits. Mayor Gatz has got me on a refugee task force works with. So I know the people that are running these nonprofits, and we refer people them, you know, every day, believe me. So we're working with them. So I don't know where you're getting the fact that, you know, we're not in contact or we don't know what's out there.
When I checked the minutes of your presence at some of the meetings, you have not been present.
Some of the meetings I go to, and some of them I don't go to. But I send one of my caseworkers goes up to the monthly meetings up at the state to hear that, and she comes back and, you know, basically gives us a summary, a synopsis of what's going on. Okay.
Let's talk about homelessness. It is a big problem here in the city, and we do have a homeless committee in this city. Is the welfare commissioner or anybody in the welfare department part of that commission?
Well, I'm on the 10-year homeless
That's what I'm talking
task
about.
force.
You are on the task force.
That was on there, yes.
Is there any money that comes out of the welfare department for that task force?
No. And you know what? There's nobody that's ever come to my office that needed shelter that was denied shelter, because we have New Horizons and we got the family shelter that they can do. And if the family shelter is full, we would end up having to put them in hotels and motels, which I haven't done in years, because presently we got about five families in our shelter. Okay?
I will say, Paul, that we have a case here where a 63-year-old woman and a 60-year-old man who had to leave, who gave a 30-day notice for their apartment because they were moving, and the apartment they were moving to had a flood, so they couldn't move in, and they went to the welfare department and said they needed 10 days housing, and they ended up spending a whole weekend outside because they didn't get housing, and she ended up having a stroke and going to the Elliott, and the Elliott Hospital called the welfare department and said, what's going on here?
No,
Finally, they were put into the family assistance.
Well, you know what? I'm not familiar. You're catching me cold, but it certainly wouldn't have happened. If somebody would have come in and they didn't have shelter, we would have provided them with shelter. Okay, we've got the family shelter, and we're able to put them in there. We've got room to put people there. So they certainly wouldn't have been denied any assistance.
All right, Diane.
Well, I can only say that the continuum of care, which is part of the task force for ending homelessness, and there are, numerous agencies involved, including city welfare. But when I checked the minutes of the attendance in the past year, there was no presence from city welfare at any of the meetings.
Well, you know
and
what?
So all I can say is that that would change under my
What happened in the continuum of care, you've got these nonprofits, and the problem was happening is that they were dealing like silos. Everybody was concerned about their own little nonprofit. And United Way, when they came in, what they wanted to do, and Patrick Tufts is good at this, he wanted to combine and get these people in together, working together, okay?
Okay, we don't have a call, okay. Let's go back on homelessness, because I think it's important. Somehow, it's if not, it should be related to some part of our welfare department, and I'll tell you why. Here in this city, we know for a fact that we have over 200 students that are going to school that are homeless. They don't go home to do their homework. They don't go home to get a warm meal. They go out and sleep somewhere else.
Right.
They're not home. Some of them are sleeping outside.
Correct.
That's why we actually have people that walk our alleys and streets and under the bridges at night to identify who these students are.
Correct.
To me, that's not very healthy for a student who's in high school and has to go sleep under a bridge. Has that ever been discussed in the Homeless Commission? The homeless students in our city? Paul, have you heard anything?
On the meetings that, they would talk about the homeless students and the fact that a lot of them do some couch surfing. In other words, they end up staying with other people on the couch and whatnot, But I know on Hanover Street, there's an organization that basically, if somebody's 18 years old and they're single or whatnot, they will put them up, okay?
I know the Horizon shelter, unless you're 18, you can't come in.
Correct.
That's the law. Okay. And the transition is for families only, so it's not for high school students.
Right.
So where do these students go? If they're not, I will say a lot of them are house couching. In fact, I remember Mayor Gatsis used to say when he's the one that started this 10-year commission under his administration. Remember him stating
Mayor Ginta.
Mayor Ginta, excuse me, Mayor Ginta. Yeah. Mayor Ginta had made a very clear statement that there are as many couch surfers as there are homeless people. That creates a lot of homeless people, and I know that back 4 or 5 years ago we tried to get rid of having 4 or 5 families live all in one apartment because it wasn't a healthy thing. And now that we're back in this recession, which is deeper than the last one we had, are we beginning to see people leaving their apartments because they can't afford them and they're going back to live with their other families? Are we going back in time and creating a hazardous condition?
I don't know, but the thing is, if someone comes to our office, obviously, and if they're homeless, if they're single male or female, they can go to New Horizons. And the New Horizons also has Angie's Place. And if they're a family, we have the family shelter.
Or how about the kids?
The kids Office of Youth Services was involved with the kids, and there was a program, I don't know if it's still in existence, that used to work with the kids that were homeless. And they used to go out and seek them out and try and get them into the Job Corps, which we're trying to build in the city. So there was a lot of work that was being done. And I know that the student guidance counselors are also fully aware of them. But they're very difficult to track. That's the biggest problem with them because they're going from couch.
Are you two in favor of the Job Corps they're trying to build here in the city?
I think it's awesome.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd like to see something for the adults as well, something similar, but that's not
and we
realistic.
are the only state left who doesn't have one.
Yeah, and back in the 40s and probably earlier than that, in the 30s, there was a Job Corps in this state, and because my father used to talk about it. He went to the Job Corps and went up to UNH and did something up through there. Unfortunately, he's passed away, so I don't know the details. But so he was part of something back in the 30s.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt had the CCC program, and he had the Job Corps and stuff, and so that way they employed people and they worked on. My dad mentioned he had worked up in Vermont, back in the 30s there. So
I remember the CCC. Yeah. Wasn't that's they stopped doing that I think in the 70s. Yeah. So it was still around then.
But that's how I think that's how the Tennessee Valley Authority got started, you know. They,
If you could change anything in the local welfare department to improve the services, what would you do, Paul? If it was in your will, not if you could do something.
Well, we're doing it. You know what I mean? In other words, what we're doing is, you know, it's you hear the buzzwords about, you know, provide better services, zero-based budgeting, streamline government. That's what we've been doing. You know, I mean, I replaced 2 people with 1 person. When Diane left, you know, I didn't fill the deputy position. I got another caseworker because, you know, that's what we needed. And so, you know, what I've been doing is basically looking at means and ways to provide the service at the best possible cost to the taxpayers.
Diane?
Well, I think that based on what I hear from the social agencies, nonprofits that are in the community, and the people that I've met, I've been to 5,000 homes. I've handed about 4,500 cards. I've got another 500 to give out over the next week. But what I hear is that there's long waiting. They spend a whole day there, and then they're told to come back the next day. There seems to be that there needs the intake process, and I know that this has been an ongoing issue that needs to be revamped. I know that it's been revamped several times over the years, but it appears that it needs revamping again. So I'd take a look at that process. People they should know pretty well whether they're going to, or they're asked to return and then they're told they're not eligible for assistance. And people don't need to come back 2 and 3 times and then be told they're not eligible. They should be told immediately or as quickly as possible that they're not going to be eligible. People just don't have that kind of time. If they're in desperate need, they're in desperate need, and that's why they came to City Welfare. When I was there, one of the things that we fought hard for was to make sure that the phones were answered by a live person, because it was the last office. And people get so exasperated by going to the other agencies and get hold for this one, go to this one, next, you know, press 2 for this, and where it's answered by a live person. And that has to continue. That process has to continue. And since it is the last office, we have to give people hope. We can't just keep asking them to return and then say, you're not eligible.
But the reason they're coming back is because they have to bring back things to be in compliance. We ask them, you know, you need to bring back certain things. And a lot of times they'll come back and they haven't complied. So now we say, you've got to go and get these things because it's important. And Diane knows that. She's been in there. She was there. She knows the fact that a lot of these clients or applicants come in and they're told to do this, this, and this, and they come back and they haven't done it. So they need to come back.
Are the other candidates here?
Just well.
Okay. It's now time for us to wrap it up. So why don't you take 2 minutes and tell us why people should vote for you for Welfare Commissioner come Tuesday, September the 8th.
November 8th.
Excuse me.
Tuesday.
November.
Sure.
I'm thinking of the primary. Go ahead, Paul.
No, basically, like I say, you know, I've been, you know, during my intent is basically to keep managing the office, okay, with the, you know, the concern of the taxpayers, but without, you know, not helping those who are less fortunate and needy and really need the assistance. That's what we're there for. And as far as, you know, the buzzwords you hear, as I mentioned before, about running the city, you know, better services, streamlined government, and, you know, and so forth, that's what we've been doing since I've been there, okay? And I've got a good staff. And, you know, when I got out of college, I was in ROTC, and I became a 2nd lieutenant, okay? I was commissioned. And I went in the Army, and I was in for 4 years. And I made, you know, the rank of 1st lieutenant, and when I was honorably discharged, I was a captain. I found out, you know what, it's teamwork. That's what you need. That's what gets, you know, the job done. And when Diane was in my office, you know, when I first got in there, that's what we did. We had meetings on Wednesdays, the staff, we sat down, we discussed things. We said, how can we do things better? We worked as a team. I backed them up. I said, do your job. And they did. And they were good people. And so, you know, that's what we're doing. We're working as a team. The esprit, the core in there is good. You know, people come in, we treat them with dignity and respect, and which is they deserve. And so, you know, whoever needs assistance, we're there to help them. Okay, and that's what I want to continue doing. And at the same time, I'm concerned about, our budget, and, I monitor the budget, and so, I'm looking out for the taxpayers, because like I said, because your tax dollars matter. That's why I'm there.
Thank you, Paul. Diane, tell us why we should vote for you on November the 8th.
Well, I'd like you to vote for me because I believe that I am the most qualified candidate, and I am the candidate that can do the best job for the city of Manchester, both for the taxpayers and for the clients. I've worked in that office for 13 years. I did management for the town of Lee for 7 years, where I set the tax rate with the Board of Selectmen. So I understand the concept of the tax rate and the importance of every penny and how it impacts that tax rate. But I also see that in this economy that there are people in need. And saving $1.6 million is a great thing to be able to say. But my concerns are at whose cost? At a reduction of 42% in services in one of the worst economies that we have experienced in the last several years, even since 1991 when I started in the welfare office. The economy was very similar to now, but this is even worse. We're losing people who are losing jobs every single day. They need to know that they have a place that they can go where they can receive the education, to know where service is available and how they can access them. They need to know that there's hope. We're talking about the middle class, working class, who never in their dreams thought that they would need to walk through that door. And we need to be able to treat them with dignity and respect and use common sense practices when providing assistance. Thank you, and I would appreciate your vote on November 8th.
Thank you both for coming.
Thank you.
It's been a very good debate.
Thank you, Glenn.
Very healthy. I think it's good that the public know how people feel when they run for office. And please stay tuned for the next debate, which will be the Alderman at Large. In the meantime, stay tuned and we'll have an announcement on what polling place we have in existence. There are 12 here in the city, and at what time. Tom?
Okay, on November 8th, the polls will open at 6 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. The following are where you can go vote. Ward 1 will be at the Webster School Auditorium on 2519 Elm Street. Ward 2 will be held at the Hillside Middle School on 112 Reservoir Avenue. Ward 3 will be held at the Carol M. Ryan Center. You have to use the back entrance, which will be at 1528 Elm Street. Ward 4 will be at McDonough School, which will be located on 550 Low Street. Ward 5 will be on the Beach Street School at 333 Beach Street. Ward 6 will be at the St. Pius CCD Center at Candia Road and Sardo Street. Ward 7 will be held at the St. Anthony Community Center, which will be at 148 Belmont Street. Ward number 8 will be at Memorial High School, which will be at 1 Crusader Way. Ward 9 will be held at the Bishop Leo O'Neill Youth Center, located at 30 South Elm Street. Ward number 10 will be held at the Parker Varney School, located at 223 James Pollock Drive. Ward 11 will be at the Gosler School, located at 99 Sullivan Street. And Ward number 12 will be held at the Northwest Elementary School, held on 300 Uville Street. Again, that's on Tuesday, November 8th, and the polls are open from 6 a.m. until 7 p.m. that night.
Okay? Not 7 o'clock yet. I mean 8 o'clock yet. Okay. You ready?
Sure.
Welcome back to another episode of City Talk Live. Your host, Glenn Millette. Again, we created this about 6 years ago at NCAM. Specifically, this show was specifically used just for debates and for local issues. We have brought it back because this is an important election in 2011 in this city, specifically since we are in a recession and it's not getting much deeper. There are 4 candidates running for alderman at large, and I'm going to read them the way they are put on the ballot. Will Infantine, Joseph Kelly Levasseur, Michael Mike Lopez, and Dan P. O'Neill. I did not get any response from Dan P. O'Neill, nor from Michael Mike Lopez. I did get a response from Joseph Kelly Levasseur and Will Infantine. And Will Infantine is here, and I will let him tell you why Joe is not here. But before that happens, since there's only one candidate, the rules change. You can't very well have a debate with one person. So we are going to have, in the next half hour, a conversation with a candidate for alderman at large. Will?
Good evening, Glenn. Thank you for having me. Unfortunately,
You're welcome.
Joe would like to join us. This show is being aired or taped on Monday evening, and as you know, at this time, there's still about 50% of the city that doesn't have any power. Joe is taking care of his customers down at this restaurant, people who don't have a warm place and a warm meal, and Joe's taking everyone in as best he can and trying to feed everybody as fast as he can, and it's just inappropriate for him as we tape this at a little before 8 o'clock at night to leave. So he's very sorry that he can't be here. Want the voters to know it's not that he didn't want to be here. It's not that he didn't want to address them and dismiss them anyway. He just needs to take care of his business in this very odd circumstance.
Okay. Now, Will, this is for the information of the public.
Sure.
Do you know if there's school tomorrow?
There is not.
There is no school tomorrow for the people that are out there.
There's no school on Tuesday, so whenever this airs after Tuesday, I don't know, but there is no school on Tuesday.
On Tuesday,
the 2nd.
The 1st of November. Today's the 31st.
Today's 31st, that's correct.
The 1st of November. You're right.
Happy Halloween, Glenn.
Happy Halloween.
Is that your Halloween tie?
And no, it's not.
Okay.
Actually, it's funny. If anybody got fooled at Halloween, it was the kids. But there will be Halloween in Manchester on November the 6th. If you check the city website or this station, they will tell you what time it's being held. I'm not quite sure. So, Will, why are you running for alderman at large?
Well, Glenn, Joe and I agreed when we decided in June that there needed to be a change at City Hall regarding the 2 aldermen at large. One has been in the position the entire 14 years the position has been available here in the city. When the charter changed 14 years ago, the other one 12 years. The only other person to hold that office other than Dan O'Neill and Mike Lopez was Rich Gerard.
That's correct.
He ran the first term, did not run again after that.
He was only there for 2 years?
Correct. I've lived in the city for 15 years. I own a home. My children go to public school here. My business has been downtown for 10 years. Joe has lived here all his life. He has a business here. He's been in business 25 years. We have made a significant investment in the city of Manchester. We believe that the current aldermen at large are not handling that investment very well. And we believe that it's time somebody with some different abilities, different skills, and different energy level should be in the position. We chose to run as a team because it's very difficult to run a citywide race. So we've gone on as a team knowing one of us may win, both of us may win, either one of us may not win, but we're going to give it a try. So that's why we've decided to run as a team.
Will, as yourself and others, not only the candidates, but the citizens have very much concerned, at least a big part of the city that I'm hearing from the public, have concern about how our city is now being run, specifically